What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story about how the quietest connections can often make the most beautiful noise. It's a tale about two adults navigating the pressures of work, personal anxiety, and a love that's communicated not through words, but through the subtle sounds of life itself. Our story introduces us to Kenji Saito, a brilliant sound engineer at a bustling film production studio. To his colleagues, he's a genius, but also an enigma. He's cold, distant, and almost permanently attached to a pair of high-end, noise-canceling headphones. They see him as aloof and arrogant, but the truth is, Kenji's world is a constant, painful barrage of noise. He suffers from hyperacusis, a condition where everyday sounds are amplified to an unbearable degree. A ringing phone is an alarm bell, a casual conversation is a cacophony, and the bustling studio is a battlefield he endures every single day. His headphones aren't a fashion statement, they're his only defense. His life is a carefully curated landscape of silence. He lives alone in a soundproof apartment, takes the quietest routes to work, and finds solace only in the controlled environment of his mixing booth, where he can meticulously shape sound into art. He's a master of his craft, but deeply, achingly lonely in his silent world. Then Aya Tanaka joins the studio. Aya is a Foley artist, a creator of sounds. Where Kenji's job is to refine noise, hers is to create it from scratch. She's passionate, a little clumsy, and wonderfully expressive. Her workspace is a chaotic treasure trove of objects, shoes of every kind, old doors, stacks of plates, and bags of cornstarch for that perfect crunching snow effect. To the rest of the studio, she's a charming new addition. To Kenji, at first, she is a new source of auditory pain. The cheerful jingle of the keys on her belt, her slightly too loud laugh, the way she drops a prop with a startling clatter, it all sets his teeth on edge. He avoids her, retreating deeper into his sound booth whenever she's near. But his job is to work with the sounds she creates, and one afternoon he's forced to listen. He's mixing the audio for a quiet, dramatic film. He needs the sound of a character carefully setting down the teacup. He watches into the light from Aya's Foley stage. He watches through the glass as she picks up a delicate porcelain cup and saucer. And then he hears it. Through his professional-grade monitors, isolated from the studio's chaos, he hears the sound that she makes. It isn't just a clink. It's a perfectly articulated, whisper-soft note, followed by the faintest scrape of ceramic on ceramic. It's controlled, gentle, and beautiful. Her sweater as she leans forward, the almost imperceptible rhythm of her steady breathing. For the first time, a human presence in his film isn't an intrusion, it's a composition. He finds himself completely captivated. A few days later, Aya has her own encounter with the Ice King of the sound department. She's carrying a heavy box of metal props when she stumbles right outside his booth. The box crashes to the floor in a deafening, metallic explosion of sound. Kenji flinches violently inside his booth, ripping his headphones off as a spike of pain shoots through his head. Aya is horrified. She rushes to the door, apologizing profusely, but he just gives her a sharp, pained look and shuts the blinds. Mortified, Aya quickly and quietly cleans up the mess. But as she works, Kenji, despite the ringing in his ears, finds himself listening again. The frantic, apologetic sounds she's making, the soft scrape of metal being carefully gathered, the gentle thud as she places them in the box, the wild shuffling of her feet. It's all so concealing. It's the sound of someone trying desperately to be quiet, and in his world, it's the most profound apology he could ever receive. This becomes the turning point. Kenji starts finding professional excuses to interact with her. He requests incredibly specific sounds for his projects, forcing them to collaborate. He needs the sound of a single teardrop hitting a dusty wooden floor, or the rustle of a silk kimono worn by someone walking slowly. granular focus, but also incredibly flattered that a senior engineer is paying such close attention to the nuance of her work. She throws herself into creating the perfect sounds for him, seeing it as a creative challenge. Their interactions are stilted, always through the intercom connecting his booth to her stage. He remains behind his glass wall, and she performs for his microphone. Yet, strange intimacy begins to form. He learns the sound of her frustrated sigh when she can't get a prop right, and the quiet, satisfied hum she makes when she finally nails it. She, in turn, learns that his long silences aren't judgment, but intense focus. One night, they're the last two in the studio, working late to meet a deadline. The building is quiet, the usual hum of activity gone. Kenji finishes his work and watches Aya as she tidies up her stage. On an impulse, he presses the intercom button. His voice, calm and low, fills her headphones. "Tanaka-san," he says, "could you do something for me?" She's surprised. "Of course, Saito-san." "What do you mean?" There's a pause. "Could you just walk from one end of the stage to the other?" Confused but intrigued, she does. She walks slowly across the wooden floor. He listens, his eyes closed. He asks her to do it again, but this time to pick up a glass from a table and carry it with her. She complies, the movements now imbued with quiet, self-conscious grace. Finally, he opens his eyes and looks at her through the glass. "Thank you," he says, his voice softer than she's ever heard it. "I have a condition." Useless, everyday sounds. It can be beautiful. The sounds you make, they're different, they're clear, intentional. The revelation hits Aya like a lightning bolt. His distance, his headphones, his pained look when she dropped the box. It all suddenly makes sense. He isn't cold, he's in pain. And her work, her sounds are something he can tolerate. More than tolerate, he seeks them out. Instead of pity, Aya feels a deep, profound sense of connection. Her job, her passion, is to create a language of sound. And she just realized she's been speaking to him in a way no one else could. From that night on, everything changes. Aya becomes consciously, tenderly aware of the soundscape she creates around him. She swaps her genuine keys for a soft leather fall. She wears softer-soled shoes. It's not about walking on eggshells. It's a deliberate, affectionate act of care. She learns to communicate her mood through the sound she makes, a gentle, rhythmic tapping of her fingers to show she's thinking, a slow, soft rustle of fabric to announce her presence without startling. Their bond deepens, moving from the studio into their personal lives. She finally asks her out on a date. Friendship is a wide. They visit near-empty art galleries, have late-night meetings in silent parks, and spend hours in the soundproof apartment, simply existing in a shared, peaceful space. Kenji, being with Aya is like listening to a beautiful, minimalist symphony. He can finally take his headphones off. Her presence is the only sound dampener he needs. For Aya, Kenji's focused attention is the most romantic gesture she's ever known. He truly listens to her, in every sense of the word. They fall in love, their relationship built on a foundation of shared silence and carefully chosen sounds. But their peaceful world can't last forever. The studio takes on its biggest project of the year, a loud, chaotic, explosion-filled authorized action film. The director is a notoriously demanding old-timer who values volume over nuance and has no patience for what he calls Kenji's artistic eccentricities. The workload is immense and the sounds are brutal. Explosions, gunfire, screeching tires. Kenji is forced to spend 12 hours a day immersed in an auditory nightmare. The stress and constant sonic assault cause his hyperacusis to flare up, worse than ever before. The sounds of the outside world become unbearable again. Even Aya's gentle noises start to have a sharp, painful edge to them. He becomes irritable and withdrawn. He starts wearing his headphones at home, creating a wall between them once more. He's terrified. The one person who represented peace and quiet was now becoming another source of pain, and the guilt is eating him alive. He feels like a defective person, a burden on the woman he loves. He starts pushing her away, believing it's for her own good. Aya is devastated. The unique language they built together has broken down. She tries to be quieter, to be smaller, but nothing works. The man who once listened to her every breath now flinches at the sound of her pouring a glass of water. Her own insecurities begin to surface. She starts to wonder if their connection was just a fluke, a product of a quiet environment. Is she not talented enough to create sounds that can soothe him through this? She feels like she is failing him, that her very presence is hurting him. Their beautiful symphony has devolved into painful, static noise. One evening, after Kenji barely speaks a word to her, she leaves their apartment, heartbroken. She wanders the city, the normal sounds of traffic and people feeling alien and hostile. She realizes this must be a fraction of what he experiences every single day. And in that moment, her despair turns into determination. She is a Foley artist. Her entire life is about creating sound to evoke emotion. She decides to fight for him using the only tools she has. She returns to the studio late at night and gets to work. But this time, she's not creating sounds for a film. She's creating them for Kenji. She records the soft, percussive sound of her favorite pen scribbling in her journal. She records the gentle gurgle of the coffee maker in the morning, followed by the comforting clink of her favorite mug. She records the sound of her turning the pages of a beloved book, and even using a highly sensitive microphone, the whisper-soft sound of her own quiet, steady breathing as she thinks of him. She meticulously mixes these sounds together, creating a deeply personal, intimate soundscape. It's the sound of her life, her love, her quiet moments. She saves the file, titles it Our Symphony, and sends it to Kenji with a simple message. You told me I wasn't noise. I need you to listen. This is us. Kenji is in his booth, on the verge of quitting. His head is pounding from the film's chaotic audio. Then he sees her message. He hesitates, then plugs his headphones directly into his phone, bypassing the movie's mix. He presses play. Aya's soundscape fills his ears. The coffee maker, the pen, the turning pages, and underlying it all, the gentle rhythm of her breathing. It's a sound he knows better than his own heartbeat. It cuts through the pain, through the stress, through the bone-rattling explosions of the film. It's an anchor in a sea of noise. It's home. He realizes his mistake instantly. He wasn't pushing her away because she was noise. He was pushing her away because, in his world of painful, transient sounds, her sound was the only one he was terrified of losing. The fear of his condition breaking their connection made him break it first. Without a second thought, he stands up, throws the door of his booth open, and walks out into the main studio, ignoring the ambient hum that would normally cripple him. He finds Aya standing by her Foley stage, nervously waiting. He doesn't say a word. He just walks up to her, pulls her into his arms, and holds her tight. He slowly reaches up and takes off his headphones, letting them hang around his neck. He leans in, his lips close to her ear, and for the first time, he doesn't care about the noise of the world around them. Your sound, he whispers, his voice thick with emotion, is the only one I ever want to hear. The final scene of our story isn't one of dramatic silence, but of comfortable, living sound. We see them in their apartment weeks later. The blockbuster film is a success. Kenji is home, and he isn't wearing his headphones. Aya is cooking, the sounds of chopping and sizzling filling the air. It's not quiet, but it's peaceful. It's the sound of their life, a symphony they composed together. And for the first time, Kenji is not just listening. He's a part of it.